The following program is presented by the Metropolitan Library Service Agency.
Hello, welcome to All About Kids, a program focusing on the interests of children and young people and some of the issues affecting them. Our guests today are Julie Philbrook, Trauma Prevention Education Specialist with Hennepin County Medical Center, and Deb Johnson, Injury Prevention Consultant. They'll be talking about Think First, an educational program available to schools in Hennepin County which helps young people learn about how to prevent serious head injuries and trauma. Julie and Deb, it's a pleasure to have you here today, and we have Barney, who's resting comfortably on the floor, and we'll talk to him later in the program. But I'm really interested in the whole concept of Hennepin County Medical Center being an educational institution in the community, and the fact that you two are going out and speaking to student groups about traumatic injuries and some of the ways that students who are, kids of that age are risk takers, daredevils, and some of the things that they can do to prevent injuries, and some of the things that have happened to you, Deb, that you can contribute. And describe the program, please.
Okay. Well, Hennepin County Medical Center is a Level 1 trauma center certified by the American College of Surgeons. And part of the criteria to become a Level 1 trauma center is that you need to be providing prevention programs to the community. So that when Hennepin County was certified for this, they went looking for some programs that they could offer, innovative programs that they could offer. And Think First is a program that is a national program. It was designed by two neurosurgeons that work on people with injuries to the brain and the spinal cord every single day. And they were very frustrated by the injuries that they saw, particularly to the young people. The highest risk age group for these injuries are kids between the ages of 15 and 24. So out of that frustration came the Think First program. And it is now in 200 chapters around the United States and in Canada. And it's a foundation that's been developed that provides curriculum to the local chapters and the videos and things that we utilize. And then each chapter modifies it for their environment and the needs that they have in particular. So we've been doing the program for 5 years and offering it to the schools. Mainly the medical center offers it to the schools within the Hennepin County area.
And you actually have a background in the medical profession, working in trauma units, so you come both with the practical experience. And how did you get involved, Deb?
Well, I actually heard kind of through the grapevine of friends with disabilities that they were needing speakers who the criteria was had an injury that could have been prevented either by wearing a seatbelt or person had some kind of experience using alcohol or, that had contributed to the person's injury. Some way it could have been prevented. And I thought I'd develop, I called and inquired about it, got written information describing, what they were looking for, and we had to develop our own kind of little talk or speech to give describing what our injury was, how it happened, and kind of how it affected our life. And then actually go and present that to an audience. And
to an audience of students?
Well, actually it was to other speakers. And the coordinator at that time kind of just watched all of us. It was almost kind of like an audition at that time to kind of see who would be able to articulate their experience and kind of she could get a feel for which speakers she thought she could work with. And I've kind of been doing it, I think, for about 3 years now. So it's...
Well, you must make a very effective team, Julie and you working together, because I think students, young people, we're all very, very interested in the personal stories. And I understand that you had a swimming accident about 15 years ago and have been using a wheelchair since then.
Right. I had been at a going away party for some friends that were going into the Navy and the Army and that type of thing after graduation from high school, and was at a friend's house who lived on a lake and actually got pushed off a dock and had been drinking, and because of my drinking, the alcohol, had no coordination, and instead of just jumping in feet first or putting my arms up to do a shallow dive, just kind of went in head first, and then ended up damaging my spinal cord in the neck area, and am diagnosed as a quadriplegic. And so then I go on to just explain, I explain what happened, and then how it affected my life, and kind of how I came to be where I am right now, the experiences that I went through as far as my hospitalization. And I also like to stress that, yes, the injury happened to me. It affected me both physically and emotionally, spiritually, but also I like to stress that, and I think the other speakers do as well, that it also affects your whole network of family and friends. So to get the point across that it's not just you that it affects when you have an injury, but everybody around you that cares about you and knows about you and that type of thing. So they get more of a feeling that, well, okay, I'm taking a risk. So what? It's my body, and I can do what I want. But it's
I would
not just
imagine
that way.
those student audiences are silent during the entire presentation and probably have lots of questions afterwards.
Yes, the teachers almost always will say, I have never seen these kids so quiet. And we do it for assemblies. We can do up to 1,000 students in assembly, or more oftentimes we've been doing it in the classroom, usually in a health classroom, driver's education. We go into a variety of different units. Sometimes we come in during their drug unit, sometimes during their CPR unit, and then we also have a paramedic that comes with us and talks about not moving a victim after an injury, because oftentimes injuries can happen from people who mean to be helpful, pulling someone out of a car or taking them out of the water and not supporting their neck, and the bones that have maybe broken off can then go do the damage to the spinal cord. So we also bring in that aspect so that it fits into a variety of different units within usually the health curriculum. But no matter where we are, a large assembly or a small classroom, you can literally hear a pin drop when the injured speaker is sharing their personal experience. And then we do open it up for questions, and we're there to answer their questions. And any question is an open question. They can ask whatever it's on their mind. This is sometimes their first opportunity to really ask someone with a disability some of those questions that you wonder each day when you see someone, because we've always been told, to not stare or not look. But, we want to let them know that, like Deb says, I'm just a regular person. Talk to me like a regular person. And
Well, certainly a young person, you're here, you're out, you use the library, and it's part of the diversity of the community, and I think that's real encouraging.
Yeah, I like to add an element of disability awareness as well. I mean, I talk about, personally how my injury, I get more into, how it affects the body and what we talk, Julie gives a background on head and spinal cord, just kind of talking about the actual, what do you want to say?
Well, how the body functions.
Medical part of
how
it.
it's affected.
So they can understand what is going to happen and how the body will be affected. And then I like to personalize it by getting into more, we're approachable. Yes, I'm in a wheelchair, but my life isn't over. I mean, it is a traumatic injury, and we don't want anybody else to go through it. That's why we want to come out and talk to the students. But I'm here, and I am getting on with my life. So.
And that's an important thing, I think, for everyone to understand, that just because you are in a wheelchair, you live a full, rich existence. I understand that the medical center is now looking at a way that you can take this program into the elementary school to make even younger children more aware of safety issues.
Yes, yeah, we're real excited about that. We're going to be doing Think First. The national program has also got now a curriculum called Think First for Kids, and we're piloting it now in 1995, and we're going to be doing first, second, and third graders. And the thought is, while kids 15 to 24 are at the highest risk, that's when most of these injuries are happening, we all know that behaviors are formed at a very young age. And so what we're hoping to do is get teachers to incorporate injury prevention messages in their math lessons, in their social studies, in their language lessons, and just make it a part of everyday learning, that they stop and think a little bit before they go do something that could end up with an injury. And actually, unintentional injuries are the #1 cause of death for young people. And so it's a large problem, and we're hoping to get to the kids even earlier.
What about contact sports? Minnesota hockey is a big sport. It's a very aggressive sport. Kids play football. Girls now are playing hockey. How do you talk to the students about sports, being responsible team members or not taking undue risks?
Right.
What
and
do you do?
that is a piece that we do cover, whether it's an organized sport or a recreational sport. Because there's so many sports to cover, I basically just say if you enjoy playing the sport, you need to protect your body so you can keep playing it for the rest of your life. So whether it's football, learning how to tackle correctly, wearing the equipment, and not fooling around with each other, because you might tackle someone incorrectly and leave them injured, and you might get up and walk away from that accident with no injury. And gymnastics, just having the spotters and the right padding below you, all the things that you learn from the coaches, you need to follow through with. And then with recreational sports, I think the big one right now is rollerblading. It's a big injured sport with leading to a lot of injuries. And I always say, I tell them it's interesting, they put a lot of money into their blades, into their knee pads, elbow pads, and they got wrist guards on, but they put nothing on the most important part of their body, and that's their brain. And if they fall and hit their head, and it happens so quickly, they can't get back up on those rollerblades. And they won't care that their wrists aren't broken because their wrists were protected. So if they enjoy doing those sports, they just need to think first before they get on the blades and ask themselves, what should I do to prevent an injury? And actually what we do is we kind of say, think about being a no fool on wheels. We aren't meant to have wheels underneath our bodies. So whether it's a car, a bicycle, a snowmobile, if you want to continue to do that sport or that activity, you need to think first before you get out there so you can keep doing it.
Well, this education is obviously really important. What are some of the other ways that you talk to kids? Is it cool to wear a helmet when you're rollerblading? Is it cool to wear a helmet when you're bicycling? How do we break down some of those attitudes that a lot of not only young people but older people have about what constitutes the sports attire? That's
right, and that is a very big challenge. And basically, what I say as far as the helmets is, I'll say I'll ask them for their excuses. Why don't you wear a helmet? And everybody feels their excuses are good. They're hot. They mess up my hair. They don't look good. My friends will laugh at me. And I just kind of bring them back to the basic thing that you need your body working for you. And we get kind of blunt. I say, when you have an injury, first thing that happens is the paramedics cut off your clothes. So those are destroyed. And the next thing is, if you have a brain injury, you have to shave the hair off your head to go in and do surgery. And then all the girls kind of look at you like, you're going to cut my hair. And I say, we take off your jewelry, wipe off your makeup, because all that stuff on the outside doesn't mean a thing to us in the hospital unless your body and brain are working on the inside. And so if they can stop and think about, some of the rationale that they have, does it really make sense when you talk about the long-term effects of an injury like that? So try to get them to think about that also. It's a challenge because little kids younger children tend to wear their helmets when the parents, and that's another thing is the role modeling of the parents, is when the parents are telling them they need to do it, but as soon as they get to be 9, 10, 11, and then upward, they right away take off that helmet, and there's not a whole lot we can do, and that's again why we're trying to also get to the elementary age and kind of get both ends of it, trying to get them to see that they are at risk, because we all feel it's not going to happen to us, and it can.
But I think I can kind of get the sense when Julie does use the example that, okay, I don't want to mess up my hair and my friends think I'm going to look stupid, or it's not really cool to wear a helmet when you're, 18 or whatever. But when she gets down to the graphic explanation, and she sets it up really well, that you're just going along, and what happens when you do have an injury, you come in by ambulance and we cut your clothes off. I mean, she just sets it up so well, and then starts talking about the reality of it. And then when they realize and when they know that she is a nurse by trade and has gone through seeing a lot of her patients in the trauma ICU part of it, that she knows what she's talking about, and she's experienced it, and I can just see the students' faces when she does set it up that way, and I think it does make a big impact. But like she said, I mean, peer pressure is hard to break into. So,
have you had some encouragement from coaches, for instance?
Well, the teachers in particular, the health educators, just by the fact that we can just continue to grow, and usually it's word of mouth from one teacher to another, and that they're already scheduling in the spring through the whole next school year, tells me that they feel it's a real value. We oftentimes we'll get letters from the students. The teachers will have them write a letter to us about what they learned, and some of them are very very personal, and they've shared on a very personal level how we touched their lives and how we made them think a little bit more, or maybe an experience that they had. A lot of these kids either know of people that have been injured. Violence is a huge issue for us, and I know in Minneapolis, coming into our hospital, violence is now the #1 reason why young people are coming into the hospital. It's surpassed motor vehicle accidents as the #1 reason for trauma for young people under the age of 16. So a lot of these kids have seen this, and so trying to also pull on those personal experiences. But the teachers really just can't say enough about the program to us and to each other. So I just find that to be a real affirming of the message that we're bringing.
Well, I was going to say, I find a lot of times, even if the students are too shy to ask a question during class, a lot of them will ask just about anything, and they almost kind of want to challenge you to see if you're have enough courage to answer them point blank, or and it takes a lot of I'm pretty open, but if they're too shy to ask, or don't really want people to notice them during class, they'll come up afterwards and talk to me quite a while, or they'll share real life experiences that they've had either in their family or with friends that have either had spinal cord or brain injuries, or some kind of near experience where they've almost had a close call where maybe they broke the bone or the vertebrae but didn't actually damage the spinal cord. And so it's really gratifying to get the questions during class, but also when students are coming up and they really want that connection after class. It just, that's what makes it worth it for me to just.
So are you doing this almost on a full-time basis now? As a consultant, you are. This is your job.
Well, I'd like to say full-time, but it's not quite full-time for me. We have 4 speakers right now that Julie really draws on, and so we kind of balance it out between us. I would say I probably do 2 to 3 a month at the most.
Well, it must be emotionally very draining to keep talking about this and to have to. It's such a personal experience to share in a very public way.
It's not really draining. After 14 years of living with my disability, I've moved beyond it. It's actually kind of after I'm done with the program, it's actually kind of exhilarating for me. It really makes me feel good about what I'm doing, and especially when I go into some of the, I go into the suburban schools, and it's okay, but when I go more into the inner city schools, I almost feel even better, because I just feel like I'm reaching kids that might be really having more experiences with like the violence issues, or really might be more at risk. And I don't know, I feel, it's real gratifying for me to do it, so I enjoy it. It makes me feel good. I think I get more out of it almost than I put into it, really.
I expect. Well, I think that's interesting that you both keep coming back to the whole violence, because I would expect when this program started that was not really one of the reasons, and now because of what's happening in society.
Right. Back when the program was designed in 1986, one of the graphs that they gave us, kind of a bar graph of the causes, motor vehicle accidents were number one as far as being the cause of the injuries. And then falls were actually second, and then violence was third. And like I said, now for young people, we've got violence as number one. I mean, there's been a real switch in the last 8 years. It's not that long of a time that violence has become such a pressing issue.
I would imagine it's kind of hard to evaluate the impact just in terms of the statistics. Are the numbers of young people coming into the trauma unit with these kinds of injuries going down because of the education, or is it because of what's happening that's actually going on?
Right. And with all prevention programs, it's very difficult to measure the efficacy of the behavior change, which is of course what our ultimate goal is to change behavior. Through a variety of studies that have been done, particularly on this program, they have definitely showed a raise in people's awareness and their knowledge base on these kinds of injuries. But when we ask them, do you now wear your seatbelt, or do you now know not to drink and drive, you don't get as big of a change. And it's not, I don't feel that the program is not effective. It's just that behavior is something, again, that's going to take a long time to change. And we feel that if we just touch one student,
absolutely. And of course, the younger,
it.
as you said before, the younger you start talking to children about this, the more it does become a part of their life.
I had one student in class raise his hand and say, we went back for a second day, kind of a follow-up. He raised his hand and said, yesterday after seeing your program, I wore my seatbelt for the first time. I said, you just made all the programs we've ever done worth it. Because if you're doing it and you're saying it in class, and hopefully you're going to make your peers who get in the car with you wear it, the ripple effect will be important. So. Yeah.
And as it expands over the country, I would expect that the Think First Foundation is encouraged by community responses. And how do they raise their money to support a program like this?
Right. The foundation, it was under, originally the program was under the Neurological Surgeons Association, and is now broken off into its own foundation. And it's fundraising primarily through neurosurgeons. Anybody can send in a donation. Some of them are through lifetime endowment things. We've got a variety of ways people can donate, $5 to thousands of dollars. And we also have corporations that are really funding it. The video that we utilize to start out the program, called On the Edge, was pretty much funded by a private organization that just wanted to put their name and endorsement on that. And also our curriculum is they've been able to raise money. So that's the National Foundation to give us our resources. And then independent programs all have their money divisions from different areas. We're very fortunate that Hennepin County really values the program and allows us to offer to the schools free of charge, and also allows us to pay our speakers for the valuable service that they offer.
Well, we'll put an information number up at the end of the program so viewers can see. Well, we've got some time left, and this wonderful Helping Paws dog, Barney, has been snoozing away. Talk a little bit about why Barney is here and what he does for you, and about the whole Helping Paws of Minnesota.
Okay. Well, Helping Paws of Minnesota is a nonprofit organization, and their mission statement is to train and provide service dogs for people with physical disabilities to enhance or increase their independence. And that's what Barney does for me. He's a 5-year-old golden retriever, and we've been together for about 2 years. And he is trained to help me with all kinds of different tasks, and things like whatever I dropped objects, because I'm not able to get out of my wheelchair and reach something on the ground, and particularly if I'm alone or if I'm out shopping and I drop my purse, I don't want to ask somebody I don't know to get it. I can rely on him. He can pick up from a dime to whatever I drop, put it right in my lap, and if I keep dropping it, he'll keep picking it up for me. He's very patient. They can pull open doors, drawers, cupboard doors, do elevator buttons and light switches, and he brings me my portable phone to bed. Just so many different things, depending on what each individual with a disability needs. depending
And you
on the
had to
dog's
kind
skills.
of audition to find out if you and Barney were going to be compatible.
Right. It's an application interview process, and we try to make the best match with what the dog can do for the person. And the puppies start out about 8 weeks of age, and they're trained for 2 years by foster families, foster homes. They do the training for us. And then as a recipient of the program, I have to take dog behavior course to find out how dogs learn and how they think, and then start working with the dog. And they learn by verbal commands and hand signals. And I had to learn how to work with Barney. He came trained and he knew what to do, but I had to learn all the commands and know how to work with him. So, and far and above what he can do for me physically, he's a wonderful companion and has added a whole nother dimension to my life. It's just a wonderful program. And they're placed at no cost to people with physical disabilities. So it's great. And he's just a wonderful buddy too as well.
I think he knows we're talking about him
He
because his eyes
does.
are open now.
Barney, hi. Are you a good boy? He's just doing what he's supposed to. He's just remaining calm until he knows I need him. He can go with me everywhere in public. I take him to the doctor's office and restaurants, wherever I go, he goes with me because he's legally certified to do that because of his training. So, Barney,
And he's been on TV before. So
yes,
this
he's
doesn't
been on
interest him.
TV before. Barney, can you sit? Sit. Good boy. Oh, he's got to stretch first. Barney, sit. And he wears a backpack for identification to show that he's a working dog. And so the public is aware that he's working and that people shouldn't pet him while he's working because it's distracting for the dogs because they're so friendly,
He's
as you
very
can see.
affectionate.
That's what I'm not
Barney.
supposed to pet him.
Barn.
Should we do it?
Yep.
Okay. Oops.
Oops. Okay, Barney. Barney, take it. He's got to stretch first, of course.
It's been a long half
Barney,
hour
take
for
it.
Barney.
Atta boy. Barney, bring it. Bring it. And you'll notice the words I'm using to tell him to get it. Barney, put, Barney. And see, I'll drop it and he'll have to get it from me again. Barney, take it. Atta boy.
So you
Atta
use
boy.
verbs, very
Yep.
simple.
Take it, Barney. Atta boy. Barney, put. Good boy. Thank you, buddy. Sit.
That's
Good
probably one of the most
boy.
interesting conclusions to a program that
boy.
we've had. Julie, Deb, and certainly Barney, thank you very much
Well,
for being
thank
with
you.
us on All
Thank
About
you for
Kids today.
having us.
Think First is a program that's going to make a difference for a lot of young people. Thank you, Julie Philbrook, Deb Johnson, and thanks to Barney, our special guest, the Helping Paws service dog. Thanks to all of you for joining us on All About Kids. Please tune in again.
This has been a presentation of Hennepin County Library in conjunction with the Twin Cities Metropolitan Library Service Agency. We thank you for watching, and we hope you visit your public library often.